Good morning. My name is Sharzad Morgan, and today we're going to talk about Chapter 5 in the parenting book about instilling courage and independence in your child. Today we will continue with active parenting, and today we're going to talk about courage. How to instill courage in your children, and this is going to be Chapter 5. It's important that children learn to take risks because risk-taking helps them develop responsibility, cooperation, and independence. And courage is something we all need in life. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to take a reasonable risk in spite of fear. Everybody's going to have fear, but being willing to take a risk in spite of fear, that is courage. Now, where does courage really come from? It's a belief in ourselves that we are lovable, capable human beings who will succeed. And even if we fail, we are still lovable. You can call this self-esteem if you like. Children need encouragement like plants need water. Encouragement is like a fertilizer that nourishes our children's courage, self-esteem, character, and skills. Where you encourage is where you spur growth. When you encourage someone for something, you're going to get more of that behavior. And by the way, this is the same as in our interpersonal relationships, right? Like if you want someone to do more of something you like, you show appreciation for something that they've done that you like. So encouragement is called the subtle giant. You want to catch people feeling good. That encourages more good behavior. Now, we talked before in earlier chapters that when children misbehave, it's because they're discouraged, and that there are 4 levels of behavior that come from being discouraged, with withdrawal being like the worst one. There's rebellion, there's attention seeking. I forgot the third one right now. But the misbehaving child is a discouraged child. Somewhere along the line, he lost the courage to face life problems with positive behavior. Oh, okay. And these are the 4 ways that a discouraged child will act: undue attention seeking, rebellion, revenge, and avoidance behaviors like withdrawing. And again, you know what the child's goal is by how you feel. They fear they will fail if they attempt the more difficult positive approaches. So as a refresher, this is the table from Chapter 4. Feel free to take a screenshot of that. So if you feel annoyed, it means that the child is doing undue attention seeking, which is negative, rather than the positive way to get attention, which is to try to seek contact and a sense of belonging. If you feel angry, then the child's negative approach is rebellion, instead of the positive approach of them wanting power. If you feel hurt, then the child's negative approach is revenge, rather than their positive goal of wanting protection or some privacy around themselves. If you feel helpless, then the negative approach is undue avoidance rather than withdrawal or just saying that they want some time alone. So yeah, you might want to go over that. But so again, a discouraged child is going to act out in any of these ways. And there are things that parents can do that discourage children even more. So you want to avoid discouraging, and you want to encourage. So this is the table, and then we're going to go over these in more detail. Okay, so the 4 ways that parents discourage their children are overprotection and pampering, focusing on mistakes, expecting too little, and expecting too much, like perfectionism. and the corresponding encouraging events are stimulating independence, building on strengths, showing confidence, and valuing the child as is. The first is stimulating independence. Independence is really the ability to stand on our own 2 feet, and it's such an essential quality. And actually, dependence does breed hostility. Here's a quote. Actually, no. Overprotection and pampering do not lead to the appreciation that many parents expect. The last thing we want to do as parents is to keep our children overly dependent on us. Our job as parents is to work ourselves out of a job. So you do not ever want to do things for your children that they can do for themselves. They actually want to do things for themselves. And so many times parents will say, no, I'm going to do that because it's easier and quicker for us to do it. So under this whole category of stimulating independence, you want to avoid pampering your child. So for an example of that would be, I'll be glad to show you where dirty clothes go, but from now on, I'm only washing the clothes that get put there. So don't run around picking up after your child, getting their dirty clothes. They know where the dirty clothes go, and you wash what goes in there. Or, I don't use that kind of language when I'm angry with you. I don't expect you to use it when you're angry with me. Next, help the child develop a sense of interdependence. For example, you're an important part of this family, and we'd like your ideas at family meetings. Why don't you come up on the sofa and snuggle with us? Would you like to come in the kitchen and cook with us? Also, you want to allow natural consequences to teach. For example, the natural consequence of leaving your bicycle outside may be that it gets rusty or stolen. The natural consequence of oversleeping on a school day is being late for the bus. So you have to allow your children to have natural consequences. In other words, you have to allow your children to feel a little bit of discomfort. Sometimes natural consequences cannot be used as teachers, though, in case if something could be catastrophic or it's too far in the future, like can't allow your child to just not brush their teeth. The second type of encouraging way that parents can be with their children is to build on strengths rather than focusing on mistakes. The mistake most parents make is to point out the mistakes and misbehavior, and then they ignore the successes and the positive behavior. The key to building successful behavior is to focus the majority of your feedback on what your kids are doing right. This builds their confidence and motivates them to keep improving. In fact, if you and your child are locked in a power struggle or a revenge cycle and want to break out, find something about the child that you like. I also call this showing appreciation. Find what you like. Focusing your attention on what's right with your children rather than what is wrong is tremendously encouraging, and that leads to more positive behavior. Now, the way to build on strengths is to kind of notice like a positive step forward. Like if their grades have gradually improved, don't wait for them to go from a D to an A. It's like, oh, now you're getting a C, now you're doing better. For example, I know school can be difficult, but if we break each assignment down into small steps, you'll find that you can do it. Also, you want to acknowledge what your child does well. I am not thrilled that you borrowed my hammer without asking, but I do appreciate you owning up to it when I asked. I appreciate your honesty. Here's another acknowledgement example. It was really a pleasure having you out to dinner with us tonight. Your manners were great. Let's do it again soon. I appreciate your playing quietly while I took a nap. That was very considerate. It sure is fun to play with you when you take turns with me. So those are examples of acknowledging. Sometimes you want to nudge a child to do something, to take the next step, because children get a sense of self-esteem from learning, whether they're learning a sport, a school subject, or a skill. And learning requires many steps and requires risk because you can have failure at each step. And there are times when, for all of us, when the frustration of not progressing the way we'd like undermines our courage and it tempts us to give up. So here are some examples of nudging your child. Learning to do division can be frustrating, and I guess you feel like giving up. But if you'll just stick with it, I know you'll get it. Look how far you've come already. Now, how about tackling that last problem again? Or, sometimes a rest can help. Let's try again tomorrow. Or, you can do it, go ahead. Or, keep trying, you'll get it. So you want to keep encouraging kids for all their improvement and effort. For example, hey, this room is looking really good. You've gotten all your books picked up and the bed's made. If you like, I have some time and could help you figure out a system for organizing your closet. Or, great, you're really getting good at writing down all of your assignments. One more day and you'll have a whole week. So the idea there is that any improvement, no matter how small, is a step in the right direction and should be noticed and acknowledged. And this is even something you can do at dinner every day, is find something good that the person did that day, or just find something to compliment that you like each day about your child and each person in your family. The third way of showing encouragement is to show confidence. Okay, you want to show confidence versus expecting too little. When you expect too little of your child, you're telling them that they're helpless, that they can't do anything. You want to show them that you believe they can do it, at age-appropriate levels. So, for example, if people who are important to you don't believe in your ability, you probably won't believe in it either. They don't have to say so. You can usually tell what they think of you by the way they act around you and the words they use with you. You pick up on those things pretty easily. If they never ask your opinion, you guess that they don't think you have much useful to say. So if you never ask your kids for their opinion, they just intuitively figure out that you don't value their opinion or that they have anything useful to say. If you seem satisfied with their half-hearted efforts at school, they figure you think that mediocrity is all that they're capable of. If you do not encourage them to participate in a sport or other activity, they will sense that you don't think they can handle it. So here are some really bad things to say to your child. No, you can't use that, you'll break it. Here's another really bad thing to say to your child. I guess you're just not the type who does well in school. Oh my God, those are really abusive things to say. Oh my God, how horrible. Okay, how to show confidence. When those we value most show confidence in our abilities, we tend to gain confidence in ourselves. So here are some ways you can show confidence in your child. You can give them responsibilities in line with their abilities. For example, I will agree to your keeping the dog if you will accept the responsibility of feeding and caring for her. Or, I think you have handled getting yourself up in the morning really well, so you can probably handle staying up later now. Say 9 p.m. What do you think? Another way to build confidence is to ask your child's opinion or advice. Which route do you think would be best on our trip to visit Grandma and Grandpa? What would you like to do with the toys that get left on the floor? Well, what do you think were the reasons for the Civil War? Would you teach me how to play the new video game? Another way to build confidence is to avoid the temptation to take over. This is so important. It is an act of confidence in our children's abilities when we refuse to step in and take over when they become discouraged. It is so tempting to relieve their discomfort by doing the thing that is so hard for them and so easy for us. But when we give in to the temptation, we are not showing confidence in the child. If we do something for the child on a regular basis that he or she, with a little persistence, could do independently, then we are communicating a lack of confidence in her ability to follow a task through to the end. When we bail her out of the consequences of her misbehavior, we rob her of an important lesson in responsibility. We're telling her, in effect, we don't have confidence in her ability to handle the consequences of her actions. Taking over certifies a child's discouragement. Such children often show an inability to tolerate frustration. They have frustration tantrums and they become easily overwhelmed with anger and frustration. Instead, encourage your child to stick with it. For example, keep trying, you can do it. Or, no, I can't stop the kids from teasing you, but I can talk to you about some things that you can do. I always think of parenting more like as not removing the boulders and pebbles from the path, but helping children to maneuver their way around them. That's how we develop independent, empowered children, courageous children. I've got to work our way out of a job. It's like they got to be able to fly. Can this little bird eventually fly? Also, we want to expect success and positive behavior. Our expectations of our children are powerful influences of their behavior. In fact, children often live up or down to our expectations. Some examples of expecting success would be saying, I know you can improve your grades if you set your mind on it. I'm counting on you to use your best manners when we are at Grandma's. I expect you to tell me the truth. Just keep practicing and you'll get it. The fourth and final example of creating courage in your child and being encouraging is to value the child as is instead of expecting too much or perfectionism. Positive expectations are important. However, if your parents expect more from you than you're able to give, you gradually stop trying because you know you will never be able to satisfy them. You may decide to make your mark in other ways, like misbehaving. Since you can't be the best at being the best, maybe you will set your goal at being the best at being the worst. Or you may become a perfectionist yourself in a futile attempt to please your parents and yourself. Life becomes one big worry as you try harder and harder to succeed. But even when you do succeed, you cannot enjoy your success for fear of what challenge to your self-esteem is coming next. Now I'm going to give you three examples of expecting too much of your children. And these are abusive examples. This is what not to say. Do not say this. How did you misspell circus when you got all the others right? If you really thought about it, you would have had a perfect paper. Do not say, this isn't a bad report card, but with your potential, you could have done better. Do not say, you've got to practice, practice, practice if you ever want to be a really good violinist. I think those are bad examples. I don't think those are good ones. Anyway, how to value the child. A child's self-esteem does not spring from achievements alone. Okay, much more important for most people is that they are accepted by significant people in their lives, that they belong. In fact, much of our effort to be successful is really fueled by our desire to win the acceptance of those significant people. Deep down inside, most of us really just want to be accepted for being ourselves, not just for our achievements. So the goal is to communicate to our children that win or lose, pass or fail, in the limelight or in the lineup, We are still their parents and we are glad of it. We all need this unconditional acceptance from someone. And if we don't get it from our parents, we need to get it someplace else. From a substitute parent, a therapist, or for some, a belief in God fulfills the same human need for unconditional acceptance. So how do you provide this unconditional acceptance for your child? First, you can separate worth from accomplishments. You put the emphasis on the importance of participation in the activities themselves and not just on the results. You can encourage your child while he is doing the task instead of waiting until the task is completed. For example, I'm glad you enjoy learning. And that also has another benefit of I see you. I see that you enjoy learning and you're rewarded for the learning. And this is how you really encourage a love of learning in children, that they love learning rather than just the result. You want to focus on the action that they're doing rather than the result. Here's another example. Playing your hardest is more important than winning. Or losing doesn't make a person a loser. Another way that you can show a child that you value him or her is to separate the worth from the misbehavior. Mistakes like misbehavior are not indications of a lack of worth, but are actually part of growth and development. A mistake can teach a valuable lesson, showing a child what not to do in the future. We want to help children learn to make friends with their mistakes. Children and adults who are afraid of being imperfect actually retard their own growth and development. Here's a joke that a perfectionist is a person who won't attempt a foreign language until he can speak it fluently. Here are some examples. I'm going to read them all because so many people think that they're a failure if they can't do something perfectly, and they'll actually internally name call themselves. Instead of saying, oh, I made a mistake on this, what did I learn from this? They call themselves a bad name for having, some mistakes in a report, let's say. So I'm going to read these 4 examples. No, you're not bad, but coloring on the walls is a bad thing to do. Let's find a good place to color. When we get angry at you, it doesn't mean we don't like you. It means we don't like something you've done. Mistakes are for learning. When we make a mistake, we don't blame, we correct it. I guess you made a mistake. Well, let's see what you can learn from it. The third way to show a child that you value the child is to appreciate the child's uniqueness. All people are equal, but they're not all the same. So find a unique thing about your child. Here are some examples. Anyway, that's my opinion. What's yours? When I see you from a distance, I can tell it's you from your walk. This room is really you. I could never have decorated it for you. You're the only you in the whole world. What luck that you happen to be my son or my daughter. Then they give some examples at the back of this chapter. Here's an activity. Writing your child a letter of encouragement. Will you write about your child's improvement in some area with truthful statements, be specific, and write how the child's behavior has been helpful to others? For example, this is a letter a child might write, a dad might write to his son. Dear Ben, your mother and I have been noticing how well you're doing with your reading. We can really hear the improvement. All your hard work is really paying off. Pretty soon you will be able to read anything you want to all by yourself. You can't imagine how wonderful a thing that is, and we are so happy for you. I'm also proud of the way you are accepting responsibility for your schoolwork. You are taking time to do your homework every school night like we talked about. You're also giving it your best and not rushing to get it done. Your teacher seems to have noticed the improvement also. That must make you feel good. Thanks also for helping me clean up the garage the other day. You have grown to where you are a big help in getting things done. Plus, you have always been great company with your sense of humor and positive attitude. And if I forget to say it often enough, I'm real glad that you are my son. Love, Dad. So this is a letter. Then they have another example of at the end of each chapter, they have examples of enrichment activities and family meetings. The family meeting is like so good. We used to do this with our kids, not every week, but they love the family meetings. They're really good. And you can have character talks in your family meetings. So that wraps up chapter 5. Thank you so much for watching my video, and the other videos for this are in the parenting playlist.